Good evening. We call to order the regular meeting of West Valley City Council. We note that we have all council members present in our meeting tonight. With that, we'll begin with an opening ceremony. Councilmember Don Christensen will do.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, as we enter into this election campaign for this year, I was impressed once again about what a great country we have, where common, ordinary people can run for office, run for elected office, and actually represent others of us. You know, it doesn't always happen that way in other countries. So I was impressed again with that. And as we repeat the Pledge of Allegiance tonight, remember that, you know, those of us up here on the stand are no different than any of you down there. We're just common, ordinary folk that put our name out there and got elected. So would you please stand and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilman Christensen reminded me, and with the council permission, I'm going to take just a personal moment here because the day after tomorrow is June 6th, which is the 75th anniversary of D-Day, the landing of the Allied forces on the beaches of Normandy in France. I had the opportunity just a couple of days ago to visit there, and there were all kinds of people there bringing their World War II memorabilia, which happened to be vehicles, jeeps and trucks and all sorts of things in full uniform of the period. And certainly a reminder of the special role that played in our lives today. In many instances now that 75 years have gone by, perhaps many of the newer generation have not grown up with that in their minds and the horrific price that was paid, both at that day and after. And certainly the American forces were given, of course, the most challenging beaches, the ones where the casualties were very, very high. And so a great price was paid. But perhaps as you this week, as you go about your business, maybe on June 6th, and there'll be a number of specials on major television networks regarding that, to perhaps take a few minutes to ponder on that because of its significance and where we are today. Because what we were able to stop, and that was kind of the major turning point, was very significant indeed. And so just a reminder to you to stop and ponder just for a moment or two on that. Now that's a fairly somber note, but now we'll go on to our regular business that is not quite so somber. Not saying it's not important, but just not somber. Let's see. I didn't miss any scouts here. Anyone look around? Okay. Then we'll go now with our regular business, approval of our minutes of May 28th. I need a motion on the minutes.
Move for approval of the minutes.
Second.
Second.
Properly before us. Any comments? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the May 28th minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Passed unanimously. The minutes are approved. Next we have our Employee of the Month Award, Carl Andresen, Fire Department. Councilmember Hume, will you take care of that, please?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to invite Carl Andresen. Please stand up while reading this letter for you. You can stand right there if you want to. Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. Yeah.
There.
We'll make you come up later.
Yeah, we're gonna come up here right after I read the letter. Yeah. Carl has a great demeanor, works hard, has a positive attitude, and does his job with a high degree of professionalism. Carl was recently serving at West Valley City Costco on his day off and encountered an individual who was joking. Carl did not hesitate and was able to provide the Heimlich maneuver, disclose the foreign body, and restore the person's airway. He saved someone's life, something that this individual will forever be thankful for. While this is just another day for Carl, it shows the kind of person he is. That is just one of many good examples of how Carl provides for West Valley City citizens on or off duty. Thank you so much, Carl. Can you come up here, please?
Now, I think he wants you to hold this.
Yeah, Carl, we're gonna want to take a picture of the council behind you. You may want to show the sign while we get that.
Actually, that's your name tag going. Carl, I noted that you had a lot of your friends from the fire department here. Anyone else from family or anyone, or?
No, sir.
No, okay.
This is my family.
Yeah. Well, as I thought of that just as he was coming up, you know, you're all a part of many neighborhood families, and having trained firefighters who have the skills to know what to do in an emergency, just wandering through our communities, the more we have, the better, and certainly a very opportune thing to be in the right place at the right time to assist someone having a major health concern. Thank you for that. And the many other days that you and your family of firefighters provide for our city and other cities as well. Okay, next then, we're on public comment. We have several people who have signed up, but we do have two public input hearings that will come up in our agenda immediately following that. So if you're here to speak to the budget, yeah, it's okay if you leave. It doesn't come out of your pay.
Want to go back out and protect the city. I heard the radio calls as they were here.
But if you're here to speak to our budget changes, or if you're here to speak to the issue of the billboard signs on Mountain View Corridor in the city, those will be separate. So if you signed up to speak for that, when I call your name, just say, I'm here for the others, and we'll give you an opportunity to speak there. This first portion is for general comments that are not on our agenda or that are not part of those two public hearings, I guess I should say. That's a better way to say it. And so, and it's open for anyone. So, With that then, and some of you have not been here, some of you have, this is not a debate, it's not question and answer, it's just your time to speak. And we will just listen to that. After everyone has spoken, the council may occasionally speak or respond a little bit to that, but probably not too much. So this is your time. Maximum of 5 minutes. Timer's right here. We're ready for the first one. It looks like Irene Darling.
Okay, hope I can get this all in 5 minutes. I'm here to talk about skunks. West Valley has a real problem with skunks. You can't go anywhere in West Valley without finding a dead skunk on the road, or at least you smell a skunk. We have had them in our own yard. There's been so much growth in West Valley that the skunks and the raccoons don't have anywhere to go. They're moving into the residential areas. And we had one skunk that sprayed my dog. She's in a 6-foot fence, and she still got sprayed in her own yard. This was about 2 months ago. Then I went out about a week ago, opened my back door, and I come face to face with a skunk. I mean, I was probably from here to you from that skunk. I just slammed the door shut, and I went in and I called wildlife, because I've been told that wildlife and things like that. I called, and the man I talked to said, "Ja, if you set a trap, then you catch a skunk, we will come out and get it." So I set a trap. A half an hour later, I had a skunk. I called them. They said they would come right out and pick it up. And later in the day, I got a call from a guy named CJ. He's the one that picks them up. And he said, "I'm sorry, but the Wildlife Division does not pick up in West Valley." He said, "Whoever you talked to made a mistake. They should have told you this." I said, "Well, they didn't." And he says, "I'll come and get it because you've got it in a cage and I know you can't get rid of it." So he came out. He told me that West Valley doesn't belong. There's a program, Salt Lake County and the USDA Wildlife Services Urban Wildlife Assistance Program. West Valley can join it. I don't know what the price is, but they can join it. Magna, all these other little towns have already joined it, but West Valley isn't. He said, "So we can't pick up." So he said, "I'll take this one." So then I called the animal control here, and the animal control officer said, "We don't do skunks." And I said, "Well, what do I do about skunks then?" And she said, "Call a terminator, or one of them people that come out and kill animals." And so, exterminator. I called a place called Critter Control. They will bring a trap out and set it for $219. Then, if you catch a skunk, they will come back out and charge you $109 more to take the skunk away. So that's $300 and something you're talking just to have them come get one skunk. This skunk that we caught has 8 babies. So now I have 8 skunks that I don't know what to do with. I can't catch them because I have no one to come and get them. So I just want to know what, West Valley can do about this, whether it be animal control take over and come out, or whether West Valley can join this wildlife assistance thing, because he said they'll come out any time. And he said most skunks, when they have babies, they have 8 to 10 babies. So if there's 5 babies or 5 grown-ups in the neighborhood, we've got 50 babies running around in the neighborhood. And my dog can't even go outside because now they're filtrating into my carport, they're in my backyard. And so I just want to know what West Valley, can do to take care of this. Because it's not just a residents problem, it's a West Valley city problem also. So I can't afford to pay, to have them hauled off. So I don't know if anybody else has any suggestions, but so, that's all I gotta say.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have Tim
Jessup.
Jessup.
Excuse the hat, I'm covering up my bald spot for my pancreatic cancer. But we're here to talk with the code enforcement people that's run out in West Valley and stuff. My daughter and her boyfriend, they thought he was going to come here or whatever, but they've been hitting them hard. And they've been up to our place. I had bought a van with the idea of turning it, because I can't work them on disability. I get $616 a month to live on and stuff. Now I get pancreatic cancer and stuff, and so I was trying to leave my daughter and my kids a vehicle and stuff. So I bought a van so I can fix up to sell it, so I can pay for the other car that I've got now to leave my oldest daughter, and a couple of, I have another vehicle there to leave my son. But they say, without being licensed and all that stuff, we can't have them in our yard. We can't have them in our backyard. We can't, wouldn't it just be that we could have stuff in our yard? Buying a house is so you could sit there and work on projects, do stuff, or whatever, but you can't have anything in your yard. What are we supposed to do with our hobby? Some of us, it's our way of life. I'm trying to make a little bit of something with our hands, a little bit of mechanic work, to buy a vehicle and turn it, just one here and there or something, it's not, it makes a little bit of extra money, and they, and then plus it's the attitude they use when they come out. Like, I was I wish my daughter and her boyfriend could have come. I guess I understand they had a flat. But they hit them several times, with a $4,000 something, dollar fine. They've lived in the place for over 30 years, and they expected to, get everything all picked up and out of there, within a couple of weeks or whatever. They come in there, they start pulling off their vehicles, as they're getting them licensed and stuff. They come in there and it just feels like, then they laugh about it. They hit the neighbors across the street, and they hit several people, but they come in there and they sit there and laugh about things. They have a big joke. They dug through a trailer where there was got several good pieces of aluminum. They said, oh, we'll take this here. They take the aluminum out of the trailer where my daughter was at, and stuff. And they take stuff in the yard. They come in there and they're joking around about it. And he's got a little roadster that he picks up. And he goes, oh, that's going to be mine next. And I says, the hell it is. And he goes, yeah, we'll wait and see. They come in with that attitude. We feel like we're being punked, and it's not very good rapport. Excuse the language, but I just, you get so. What can we do in our yard? We're never supposed to to work on something. It's just not. I remember, back when we used to build things, but you make things in our yard for a little extra money and stuff, but now you can't do a damn thing in them, West Valley's not Bel Air, that's damn sure. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, we have
Terry Snyder.
Carrie Snyder. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry about that. How you guys doing tonight? Anyway, I've been in West Valley my whole life, right? Other than military and other things like that. Well, my property is horse property, and I had to leave that to go take care of my mom and her husband.
so my brother stays on the property that I pay for. And the hot rods that's at my house, like a 34, a 36, a 29, and all these other rods that's been there for ever since my dad, before when he passed. And it was horse property, and then all of a sudden, you can't see in my yard in the back. Now, I have no paperwork on when they come and said, oh, you need to do this. So I'm like, well, I don't have no paperwork. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Well, I turned up front, you know, it's 20 degrees outside. You come at me like in the spring or, right? I was starting to do it before winter, you know, you winterize, and I'm not even staying there. It's like, so the way I want to clean, I gotta empty the building out because I don't want it. I don't need all the ends of motorcycles or anything like that, right? Because I figure, you know, I'm tired. I'm getting old, right? I don't want to pack my toolbox can and lift. Well, just like my neighbor, he's been pushed down. He died just 2 days ago from it, being worked too hard or whatever. I went in the hospital twice with a hernia over the winter for it, trying to get it. I mean, I acre or wherever, and I gravelled the back. I mean, I spread it all out. I had a van, an antique van that it ran. It had a flat. I just paid to have it licensed for a year. It's in the back of my yard. Tree falls, my neighbor's tree. I'm out there sawing it by hand because the chainsaw wore me out. And so I'm out there doing that. I ain't got time to worry about this flat right at the moment. They take and impound this vehicle and it's licensed. And I'm like, you can't take that vehicle, it's licensed. Well, they can, I guess, but I didn't think that that was right, you know, because, yeah, I didn't have it on the street. I didn't need the insurance because it's like liability. If something happens to it on your property, it's just like you having it on the street with liability. You're out the vehicle either way. You know what I mean? They're not going to cover it. They're not going to lose it. But where, you know, they came in and he's like, takes my cousin, bought a stack of plywood, 28 sheets they took, 28 sheets of plywood. I was supposed to deliver it to him on the trailer. Well, he went in the hospital, so it sat there. I'm like, how am I gonna, you know, and they stacked that and took that just like nothing. I'm like, that ain't even mine. At $12 a sheet or whatever, you know, 28 sheets, that's a lot of money. And then find me $4,200, right? And took a trailer load of my dad's old motorcycle parts. It was all aluminum, sure. All that aluminum probably paid that, not necessarily, but you know, it's like, okay. And I tried to keep my calm with it, you know. I don't want to have any problems, but it sure was a menace, you know, being out there working, get your big kid boots out there in 20-degree weather. We haven't had very many sunny days other than recently, right? And it's like, okay, I don't mind getting dirty or whatever, working. I'm a farm boy. But, you know, if somebody said to me, hey, I need this done, I'd do it. And if I said I was going to do it, I'd do it. And like I said, it made more work for me, personally, to try and put tools away or whatever. Like, you know, I have I got a garage that's got 2 space for semis, you know. My dad was a truck driver and he had a place where and I'm talking snap-on tire balancers and stuff. If you go price a snap-on tire balancer, try and stuff that big old 3,000-pound thing in your garage, you know, and it's like, you know, I'm only one person, but yeah, they got a whole crew come down there. Give me 2 weeks, but they get their crew down there, and it's like, that's fine, but I had it looking nice before they got there, and they tear it all up. And it's like, you pick and choose what you wanted to take to get the scrap aluminum out of my trailer and leave the metal, and then take pictures of it, and then go, okay, we sign you off, and now come back and say, oh, we still have a problem here. Now it's like, once they signed it off, I was like, how's that? When you sign it off, and I just painted the walls where the paint had got off, and so I was painting that, and then he's like, comes back, well, they left the vehicles there that weren't running when they left, and signed it off. So it's like, sure, they can come back anywhere I go, I can take the yard and say, there's something wrong with it. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
Now, if you could summarize, you've had your 5 minutes,
Thank you.
so if you just do a quick summary and,
Oh, I'm good. I just wanted to let you know that the guy's standing there laughing, him and the tow truck guy standing there laughing in my yard, thinking it's funny what he's doing. And I'm just sitting there biting my tongue like, this ain't funny. And, you know, if people, you know, there's gotta be, they've been there, they've been built in the yard. The hot rods have been there for 40 years, and to just come in and say, oh, you're gonna get rid of all that in 2 weeks or whatever is not right, you know?
okay.
I'm
Thank
gonna get
you.
rid of it, but it's an asset to me. It's 1936 hot rod, I had to give it away, and that's not right. There was 3 of them left. You know, it's wrong for them to be able to come take what they want as an asset to me, or, you know, split it with my brother because they were part of what my dad had left. You know, I'm just saying, it's kind of wrong. And then all the stress that goes along with it, through everybody worrying about, you know, all the fines and all that. There's, you know, I was working on it before they came, and then they come at me like that, you know? I'm just saying, you guys, that it was wrong what they did. I mean, they
Thank
impounded
you
my
for
bandit's
bringing the
license.
information to our attention.
Well, I appreciate it, guys, and appreciate your
So,
time.
Thank you. Next, we go to Jim Visock.
Jim, I'm a regular here. Thank God I've never seen a skunk in my area. And I agree, because I'd probably go out with a 22 and take care of it myself, but then I'd probably get... I know. I was just looking back there, Chief, he's like, no, Jim, you can't do that, so... Yeah,
Already thought that.
I'm sure the mayor will talk about getting it on their agenda, because that seems like a simple fix, but I'm hoping that's what will go on that. The next thing is, once again, code enforcement. I'm for code enforcement, don't get me wrong. I have a problem with the notification process that they do, because they have other options. And it seems like we're getting a lot of people that have hobby cars where there's been an issue. Maybe the city could look at maybe a hobby permit, a limited time, where they have X amount of time to work on this vehicle, where code enforcement will give them, you know, that might be a suggestion, might be a way to fix it. And then some more continued training with the code enforcement agents. I don't like them calling them officers. Some of them walk around with a badge on their side. They look like detectives. And when you talk with the citizens, they're presuming that they're police officers, that they're attached to the police department, and they're not. And it's an intimidation factor to a lot of people. Might be something you might want to look at. You know, they're wearing West Valley, you know, employee shirts. Doesn't say officer on it. You know, maybe removing the badges. It would take away a little bit of the intimidation. Just something on that. Last week, Mike was here and he talked about the street parking. I think that's an ordinance that the city part of it, where an unlicensed vehicle sits on the street and it can sit there for 72 hours and they can move it. There's really nothing that PD can do. There's nothing that the owner, like a rental property, can do. They can just be moved around, because there's an ordinance, and it's something the city might want to look at fixing that, so maybe PD can call a tow truck out if it's been sitting there for 3 months, the same halfway broken down vehicle, give them a little bit more authority. Because I had people across the street, the landlord asked me, you know, they were going to move this broken down van out in the street, and I'm like, no. Code enforcement's already got you from your property. You're going to get in trouble if you do that. Well, I know better than that, but he didn't, and they got towed away off the property. But the owner couldn't do it. The owner of the property couldn't do that. And he asked code enforcement, how do I do it? They couldn't give him the answer. I told him to go to PD, but luckily the renter got it off the property, or else he was going to be tagged $500 a day. So there's got to be something we can do about that. And like I said, Mike's been talking about it off and on a lot. And then the xeriscaping in a study meeting. I'm for xeriscaping because we live in a desert. 100% xeriscaping, no. But you know, if you put a few plants in there, you put rocky, you can make it look really nice. Some of the homes in Arizona and Nevada and stuff like that, I mean, you got multi-million-dollar homes with very little plants, and they look beautiful. They put colored rocks in, they make them look like rivers and stuff. And xeriscaping could work. And right now in West Valley, if you don't have the right quota, whatever that is, code enforcement will come after you on it. So that might be something, you know, I know you guys put it out for study, but I'm for xeriscaping. And I have a feeling that state's gonna legislate water reduction, and then that's what people are gonna say. It's like, well, okay, I wanna take out my lawn, so I don't have to. I can reduce my water by 10%, you know. So it's just something to continue to look at. That's all I have.
Thank you. Next, Guy Larson.
I'm here to speak on something else.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, with that then, we will close the general public hearing portion of our meeting. We'll come back to here. Let's see, any follow-up comments you'd like to make, Mr. Pyle?
Thanks, Mayor. Yes, the only follow-up comment I make is I would make is I'll have Mr. Morris get with the lady right there and check into the Wildlife Services pickup store. I wasn't aware of that service, so we'll see what's going on with
I
that.
have a card here that the wildlife guy gave me.
Mr. Morris back here will
Oh,
give
okay.
you right after the meeting or during if you'd prefer, if you need
Okay,
to.
whenever he's ready.
Okay, that's all I've got, Mayor.
Okay. Council members, any comments? Okay. So, we also, to have discussion, some of these items we'll place on our study agenda for next week. And certainly I'm interested as well as that service at the state and what they provide and don't provide and what the cost is. So maybe we add that just for information. I don't know that we need to change much what we're doing, but it would be interesting to get that information and see what the impact is. So we'll put that on our agenda for next week. Then we had two individuals talk about code enforcement and vehicles being impounded. And those are more specific ones. So maybe someone could follow up with them individually from our staff. And they have, okay. Although the only question I would have there that we maybe want to look at is the disposition of items that are impounded. And just clarify that in my mind, because I don't know that process. So maybe we could put it on the agenda just to say, what is that process, so that we can make sure that we can explain it to our citizens and are aware of if something is impounded, what is it held for a certain amount of time? Once it's disposed, how is it disposed of, etc. Okay?
I have a question.
Okay.
How about,
Then Jim's, the only one that I saw there on Jim Visock was on the removing the badges from the code enforcement officers. I don't know on that one. I suppose there's some rule or something we've set up for that. You want to follow up on that?
May I add real quick, when they come back in your backyard.
Our public comment period is now
I'm just saying you
closed.
might want to tuck them up, make it look like a second
And
job.
so
and
next
they
was,
things that are worth money.
so that actually covered all of them there, so. Unfortunately, we do need to kind of keep to our rules, or city council meetings could become, at best, shouting matches and that, and we've had a few of those, but.
And one of the things we need to remember too, Mayor, is that we cannot discuss policy that is not on the agenda by state law.
We can refer to it, and we can recommend to staff with a brief comment, but yes, if we want to get into a policy discussion, we really should not do that. Because state law says that we should not have policy discussions without at least 24 hours notice to the public, generally speaking. That doesn't mean if you make a brief comment on it that we violated the law. So we try and keep that very, very brief with just these references. With that then, we'll move on to our public hearings. And so the first one we need to consider is ordinance 19-15, which is reopening, the final opening of our 2018-2019 budget. We have a number of items that we need to modify, and this is according to requirements placed upon us by the state, so that as we receive additional funds from grants, as we carry items forward, as we have changes that are required, that we approve things to be purchased during the year, we need to make sure that they officially get into our budget. So that is the issue before us. We have attached to our information that was available to the public a list of all those changes. In the footnotes actually was where the item was. A number of these we had discussed before in our council meetings, approved them to be added to our budget, and this is the opening of the budget that we do quarterly to add those items. And I believe the council discussed those. I was not here last week, so if there are any issues there, my understanding was there wasn't a great amount of discussion. So that is the issue before us for those changes. And with that, I will now open the public comment period for this ordinance. Is there anyone here who is going to speak to or would like to speak to these changes in our budget? It looks like a normal response for our quarterly budget openings. So, seeing no public comment, we will close the public comment portion. We'll bring that back to the council for any comments, for any motions.
Move for approval of resolution ordinance, move for approval of ordinance 19-15.
Second.
Properly before us. Any further comments? Seeing none, then, per state law, we turn to our city recorder that we do a roll call vote.
Councilman Fitzie Umanu? Aye. Councilwoman Lang?
Yes.
Councilman Bueller?
Aye.
Councilman Hume?
Aye.
Councilman Christensen?
Yes.
Councilman Nordfeld?
Yes.
And Mayor Bigelow?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is application ZT-4-2019 filed by Nick Augustine? Okay. Requesting appeal of our planning commission denial to allow freeway-oriented billboard signs on Mountain View Corridor and Bangerter Highway. This is ordinance 19-16 as well that we will vote on in connection with amending our city code to amend the definition of a freeway-oriented billboard. So my understanding from the information I got that there's been a discussion. There are signs and there are limits on size and distance where those can be placed on both the Mountain View Corridor and Bangerter Highway, according to our city code. This request was, as I understand it, to take and increase the size of those billboards, which would be electronic billboards, and in exchange for that, they would reduce the number of stationary billboards along 3500 South. Now, I wasn't here for the discussion, so chime in here and help me to...
I would add to that, Mayor, there's a cap on the number of billboards.
Right.
And the ordinance, proposed ordinance, would treat Bangerter Highway and Mountain View Corridor as 201 freeway and 215 are treated as far as highway signs, which are a little bigger than regular signs. But because of the cap, and it wouldn't be the entire length of those corridors because they still would be prohibited in residential areas, so it's limited in scope along those corridors. But allowing or passing this ordinance would allow such signs to be brought, in my opinion, out of the neighborhoods to the highways, because for every sign that would be placed at a highway, they'd have to eliminate a sign in the city. And there are signs on 36th West, 41st South, all over the place. There are billboards that predated West Valley being a city. And so there's some give and take in here. We'd have some bigger signs along the freeway. And they could put signs there now. They just wouldn't be as large as highway signs. And so that's how I understand the proposal,
so
which was voted down by the planning commission.
Okay, so it wasn't just 3500 South, it was just from various portions of the city. Okay. Now, was there a number associated with that as to the number of signs?
I think the number of signs we have is 43 is the number that I remember.
So the information I have is we started at 53 and that number's moved into the high 40s. So you're in the neighborhood.
Okay. So and I'm sorry, I've been out of town, so I'm catching up a little bit. So was it a one-for-one replacement? Okay. That's the introduction to the issue before us. Now, I do a lot of that for the record and for those listening in electronically. With that introduction then, we will now open this for public comment. So if you have any public comment, and I'll start with, of course, Guy Larson, who had signed up, and so at least I have his name in writing. Otherwise, we have to get you to give us your name and address so we can contact you if need be later.
I appreciate it, Mayor. My name is Guy Larson.
By the way, there's not a 5-minute limit on that.
I will be brief, probably less than 5 minutes. So my name is Guy Larson. I work for and represent Reagan Outdoor Advertising. And your overall take on the reason why we're here tonight is fairly accurate. So I'll just give you a brief history of your billboard ordinance. You allow, it's a simple cap and replace ordinance in your city where there will never be any additional billboards. You've maxed out at whatever number you have now. What we're asking for is your ordinance is, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but a little bit outdated, where the ordinance came about prior to the Bangor Highway and the Mountain View corridor. And what we're here for tonight is we simply want the ability, as you mentioned, Mayor, you can build signs on the Mountain View corridor to a certain size. What we're asking for, and that size is 300 square feet, what we're asking for is to increase that to 672, which is what is allowed on the I-215 and Highway 201, 21st South, is what you allow on that. And those roads existed prior, or when this ordinance was adopted back, actually just after I started at Reagan back in the 90s. So what we're here for tonight is to simply do a text change which would allow for a bigger sign. We wouldn't be increasing any signs, as you said, Mayor. We would be taking a sign down and relocating it, a non-conforming sign, and relocating it to another road. And we have a favorable, and I want to commend the staff. I appreciate their hard work and what they've done as far as their help with this. But the thing I want to point out is that right now you can build on the Mountain View corridor. And we were approached by the city, we've been in some dialogue with the city, that there are some signs in West Valley City that might be classified as signs that maybe you don't want in the city. We've been told that there's some signs that are in residential zones or grandfathered that are too close to residential dwellings, et cetera, et cetera. Some that might be in an RDA, a place in the city that you want to clean up, maybe move a sign or two. And all we're asking for is if there's an ability, or excuse me, if there's a mechanism for us to move a sign, i.e. more roads to move it on, we would look at moving some of these signs that are less desirable in the city. And like I said, we've been approached with a handful of signs that the city would like to see moved. And we're not opposed to looking at that. Other than questions, that's all I have to say is that we're looking to, as I said, you can build on the Mountain View corridor. We're just asking you to follow the 215 and the 201 regulations where you allow for a little bit bigger sign. So that's all I have unless you have questions for me.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak to this issue? Seeing no one else who is speaking to this issue, I will close the public comment portion. That is now closed. We'll bring it back to the council for further discussion or action. Certainly any comments you make will be helpful to me since I missed the discussion. I just got back yesterday, so I haven't had a chance to look at the video.
I know in our discussion there was some concern about, well, the sign would be twice as big as, a little bit more than twice as big as a sign that's already allowed. And thinking back to when we were deciding to put a sign for ourselves at the fitness center on 56 West, we decided, hey, this sign's too small for 56 West. This is a high-traffic, large road. We need a bigger sign. And I think the same applies with Bangor and with now forward. I think that the incentive that you can have to a sign company, that you can have a larger sign on a highway, but you have to remove a non-conforming sign, a sign that's not going to be seen as much, but is in someone's front yard or next to their front yard or across the street from your house. I think that is a good trade-off for us. And it's not perfect, but I think it's a good trade-off. And most of the things that we do in West Valley is we are trying to, fix things little by little and improve things from where they were before we were a city, before we were built out, before we had so many residents. I think most of these things, kind of a bootstrap community that we pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps. So I think this is a good compromise, a good change. And with that, I'll move for approval of ordinance 19-16.
I just have a question / comment, but is it not possible that we could also deal with these non-conforming signs or inconvenient signs or unsightly signs in different locations without having to concede larger signs along the other roadways?
So this is a very highly regulated area, and our options for doing those sorts of things are fairly limited, not only by our own ordinances and whatever policy decisions the city makes, but also at the state level as well. So at least in this particular instance, as the mayor and Steve both mentioned, in future or other situations where we might be able to make improvements, we kind of try to do that incrementally. And that's a very long way to say sort of no gently.
Yeah.
So a company could still move one of those signs to Bangor or Mountain View corridor and not increase the size, but there's less incentive for them to do it.
Yes, and that is true. I mean, any sign company could make those sorts of moves within or at a lower level within the ordinance voluntarily, but it's just not very likely.
Thanks, I'm just
So-
comments from.
So the cap still remains in place. So if we didn't do anything, why, it would be status quo, and if they decided to move a sign, they could, but that's probably not cost efficient for them. There's no purpose.
There are methods for them to move, right? But for this particular case where they would like the signs on Bangor or Mountain View corridor, that would be restricted. Is that correct?
Right, so there are methods for them to move proactively if they so desire, but that requires a one-for-one trade-off. For us to force that situation, that becomes a takings issue, and that's very heavily in this area regulated even more heavily by the state law.
So since we're discussing this, maybe I ought to second it so that it's really on the table for discussion.
Yeah. We were waiting for that. So they could move them same size currently, and they wouldn't need any approval from us whatsoever.
No, they'd still have to go through a movement process.
I mean,
If that's your question.
Yeah, but the process isn't prohibitive. I mean,
It's not prohibited, it is regulated. I'm not sure what you mean by prohibitive, but
Well, regulated, what would they have to do? They just have to make application, fill out some forms, et
They'd
cetera.
have to make application within the restrictions and regulations that exist today,
Yeah.
and then they can pursue that, yes.
But the general restrictions, they aren't a lot different for if we allow them to do this and have the larger sign, correct?
I'm
They-
sorry,
they're-
say that
They
for me.
still have to request that.
Yes.
Even if we allow this one-to-one transfer
Yes.
and allow them to go
Still
through
gotta
the
go
bigger
through the
sign,
application
they would
process.
still go through the application process,
Yes.
so that really doesn't change. Okay.
And as I understand it, they would still only be allowed in certain zones, which is not, we won't do a Barbasol commercial down Bangor Highway or down Mountain View. It'll only be in certain zones.
Okay. So, just one more clarifying item. Sorry, I'm catching up. On these transfers now, currently there are different sized billboards in West Valley City. Some are larger than others. So would the one-to-one transfer essentially double the size of each, or would all of them, even a smaller billboard, go to the larger size if they wanted to move it?
So my understanding is we're basically talking about a square foot by, or square foot for square foot trade. So in the case where one was, 300 and there was 300 on, let's say, a sign on 35th South, then yes, that would be doubled, but I don't know that that's necessarily the case in.
So
or
if there
that
was
it
one
would
that
occur
was
in that
not
case.
300 square feet, but 150 square feet, I actually had to end up buying some one time, and so I know there are different sizes.
Sure.
So those would go to like,
They'd be increased by the size of the sign that was in the other location, is that correct?
Right, so it's not a square foot by square foot exchange necessarily. What this really does is allow for the increase of, either it's a straight across, they could pick a larger sign that they want to move over to Mountain View or Bangor, or they could pick one of the smaller ones if you were to approve this, increase the size. But it's not necessarily a square foot per square foot exchange.
oh, so from your comment, then you said it would have to be approved so that staff would still have the option of saying, no, we don't want you to move that one?
No, we don't have that opportunity. Our ordinance allows for a one-to-one exchange.
So what's the
Doesn't really-
specifics of the change
So,
when the word, because they can move them now?
right, they can
Okay.
move them now. So right now, they could put a 300, and I'm gonna round off the numbers, sir, but they could put a 300-foot sign on Mountain View and Bangor right now, in the zones that would allow for it,
there
after
were a
acquiring a
300-foot
permit from
sign.
us. Yes, sir.
If it's a smaller one, would it still be a smaller one?
As it sits right now today, yes, sir. They could only do the 300 square foot sign on Mountain View and Bangor.
But if it's a 200 square foot sign, they can trade that for a 300 square foot sign.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's not, it's a sign by sign exchange. And what this ordinance would
That's
do
right.
is treat
Oh.
Bangor and Mountain View as highways, so they'd have the 670 square foot signs. And of course, they would go for that. And that would also be the incentive to move the sign anyways, that now we're getting a bigger sign, we charge more money for it. And
Okay,
Have it work.
thank you, because you clarified that. I was asking the question wrong, I guess, for staff, but sorry about that. But Steve's used to my unusual questions, so he knew the answer.
Great trains run on the same tracks.
Okay. Thank you. That, I think, got me up to speed. So, we do have a motion before us, it's properly before us. Are there any further questions or comments?
I'd like to make a comment.
Yes.
I think it's very important that we preserve the view as much as we can, and I'm very hesitant to approve this. Although I am in favor of providing an incentive of moving our most undesirable signs from their current locations. I think that the way Bangor is right now, the signs that are on that in our city are big enough, and I would not support this if it includes Bangor Highway. I'm more open to Mountain View, but I would urge us not to approve this that includes both Mountain View and Bangor. Think of the sign on Bangor just north of 3100 South, there by American Preparatory Academy. It's very visible and easy to read from both directions, and a sign that's more than twice as big as that is just a monstrosity and trashes our city, and I think we should protect it.
Okay, so I just need to clarify because I think you made a comment, and it may have just been referring like I-215, or is I-215 not including this? They can already do it there.
Yeah, they can already do it on 201 and 215.
Yeah, we have a freeway sign ordinance that allows for 672, but we've defined freeways to be I-215 and Highway 201. They're asking us to define Mountain View Corridor and Bangor as freeways as well.
And the traffic volume is, that even the projection is still, there's a big disparity between those in my mind as well.
Yeah, that's the actual change is, we're calling them freeways, therefore you can have freeway signs.
Correct.
Okay.
And to a point, I agree with Lars, because I think our Bangor is a city center type of a road. But I agree that Mountain View is too, so I'm against putting them on either one, the size we have on our borders with 201. And I mean, I know 215 goes through, but it goes through a lot faster. When Mountain View becomes finished off and is more of a freeway, then I think it's appropriate to have those signs. But for right now, with the speed and everything, I just don't think it's appropriate. They might be going 75, but they're not supposed to be going 75.
No, where the speed limit's 70, they go 85.
But yeah, but the speed limit's lower, so they still go faster, but to me, that doesn't justify a bigger sign on either one of those roads.
Okay.
I think, yeah, anyway, I'll stop there.
Any further comments? Seeing no further comments from the council, then we'll go to our city recorder for the roll call vote.
Councilman Nordfeld,
No.
Councilman Christensen,
Yes.
Councilman Hune,
May.
Councilman Bueller,
Aye.
Councilwoman Lang,
No.
Councilman Fiti Samanu,
No.
and Mayor Bigelow.
Aye.
Motion fails.
Let me ask a question, because under our rules now, that motion didn't pass, but the issue is still before us. You know, still on our agenda, we have to dispose of that. Do you want to send that back to staff to do further research, perhaps modification, like allowing it on one but not both? Or do you want to dispose of it entirely?
And I think that there are ways that it could have been perhaps more palatable to one more council member, such as maybe instead of 670, 500 square feet, or one road instead of the other. But, you know, I don't think we can vote in advance. I think it would depend on an application or a council member who voted no saying what would change the vote, I guess.
Well, no, the issue, I guess, is what I was trying to do there was because, you know, when you vote no, the motion didn't pass.
Right.
So it's not going to go into effect. But the issue is still there, and we have a choice of saying, no, it's just not going to be dealt with.
We can
We're
vote
done
to
with
deny.
it. Or, yeah, that's what I was looking for, the vote to deny. Or we can just leave it and allow it to be studied further and maybe worked on a little more, maybe come back with an alternate.
And I guess if somebody moved to deny the ordinance and then that didn't pass either, then we know we still have a question that is ripe for a resolution.
And we can put in for continuance. If that passed, then staff could work on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I personally to go with with the logs. I'm okay with the Mountain View corridor, Highway 201, I-215, but Bangor is a bit too big for that kind of site.
So it sounds like maybe a motion to continue this and let staff go back and work with those who are recommending this change and see if we can bring it back again.
Well, I'll start with a motion to deny, or move for a motion to deny this application.
Second.
It's properly before us. Any further comments? Seeing no further comments, a motion to deny.
The application.
So when we vote yes to this, we're voting
To deny.
that we're against this.
Yes. So yes means,
No.
Start over.
Or not.
just so you're clear. Now, if you don't want it to be denied, because once we deny it, the issue is over. Right?
Right.
Okay. Is that clear to everyone? Then, seeing no further comments to our city recorder.
Councilman Fitzie Umanu.
Aye.
Councilwoman Lang.
Yes.
Councilman Bueller.
No.
Councilman Hune.
Aye.
Councilman Christensen.
No.
Councilman Nordfeld.
Yes.
And Mayor Bigelow.
Motion, now that I've listened there, if I vote yes, it's denied, so I would vote no, because I do not want it to be finally denied.
Motion for denial is approved.
No.
No.
No,
I was no.
There was 4.
there was four.
So the motion to deny failed.
No, it's approved.
No. The motion passed.
Motion passed.
Councilman.
4 that voted yes.
Yes.
The motion for
Fitzie
denial is
Umanu,
passed.
Lane, Hune, and Nordfeld all voted aye.
Okay, then that takes care of that. So we move on in our agenda. Application, let's see, sorry, took care of that. No, we go to resolutions. Resolution 19-58, authorize the city to enter into an amendment to the golf cart lease agreement. And I got an explanation on this, I didn't hear it, but let's just make sure that what I'm saying is correct. My computer will respond, and it's not. Okay, there. So, because we did approve an agreement for a 5-year golf cart lease system, and this we had to go back because it includes now their new funding source that needs to be signed and approved. That's the
That's
amendment.
roughly correct, Mayor, yes. We're not having to go back, they're having to come back to us because they need an amendment to the contract for their financier.
Their new, their,
Right,
meaning,
none of our terms have changed.
yeah. So everything we're doing is the same. Okay. And so that's the issue before us, unless you want to make it further comments.
Move for approval of resolution 19-58.
Second.
Properly for us, any further comments? Seeing none, to our city recorder.
Councilman Nordfeld.
Yes.
Councilman Christensen.
Yes.
Councilman Hune.
Aye.
Councilman Bueller.
Aye.
Councilwoman Lang.
Yes.
Councilman Fitzie Umanu. And Mayor Bigelow.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Next, we have Resolution 19-59. This is to authorize the city to enter into a master tax lease agreement, exempt lease purchase agreement with U.S. Bank Corp. The amount of this is for $2,900,000. And it's for the purchase of equipment at the Maverick Center for energy efficiency projects, equipment replacement, and other improvements implemented at the Maverick Center. Lease is a 15-year term, semi-annual payments of $121,345, interest rate 3.069. And the debt service payment will be made from a combination of cash flow from energy savings and contributions from the repair and replacement funds allocated to the Maverick Center. Did I get that one complete? That one's pretty easy. So, any further comments? Then,
Just comment that it's the replacement of equipment that needs to be replaced, and we're looking at doing it in an energy efficient way to save maintenance costs, replacement costs, utility costs, and I move for approval of Resolution 1959.
I would like to add with my second to that, that we're also saving the environment and the future for our children with my second.
okay, seeing no further comments, to our city recorder for the vote.
Councilman Fitzie Umanu.
Aye.
Councilwoman Lang.
Yes.
Councilman Bueller.
Aye.
Councilman Hune.
Aye.
Councilman Christensen.
Yes.
Councilman Nordfeld.
Yes.
And Mayor Bigelow.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Resolution 19-60. This is a professional services agreement with Lewis, Young, Robertson, and Birmingham for energy efficiency upgrade management services. Okay, got to get... Well, I can't get off the Maverick Center, so I don't know what's the matter. There.
This is still the Maverick Center.
That's why, maybe it is the Maverick Center. Okay, so in conjunction with that, this is a $2,015,000 agreement, U.S. Bank lease for the Maverick Center improvements. This amends our professional services contract with that particular provider to act as construction manager for the energy efficiency upgrades. And so there are some limits placed upon that. We've done several of these before where we call upon their services in order to accomplish this work. And it's only done for what we actually end up putting in the agreement. So I see here that they estimate it will save $150,000 a year in utilities, and that eventually that will result in overall reduced expenses. I think that's about as far as I can go, unless some of you would like to have any further explanation on that.
I'd just like to add that in addition to reducing expenses, we're reducing the use of fuel and reducing our carbon emissions. It's not all about the bottom line, but also the future for our children and grandchildren. And I make a motion to approve this.
Second. Properly before, seeing no further comments, to our city recorder for the vote.
Councilman Nordfeld.
Yes.
Councilman Christensen.
Yes.
Councilman Hune.
Aye.
Councilman Bueller.
Aye.
Councilwoman Lang.
Yes.
Councilman Fitzie Umanu.
Aye.
And Mayor Bigelow.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, we have no need for a closed session, so that completes our regular city council meeting agenda. There will be a couple of very brief meetings after this one. So with that, let's end our council meeting, regular council meeting, with a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. It passes unanimously. Our regular city council meeting is adjourned.
At this time, I call to order the, regular meeting of West Valley City Redevelopment Agency. Note that we've had an opening ceremony and that all agency members are present. First up, we have the approval of our meeting minutes from May 7th. To the agency for a motion or any question or discussion.
Mr. Chair, I move for the approval of minutes May 7, 2019.
Second.
All in favor of approving our minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? It was unanimous. Now we have time for a report from the CEO, if there be any.
No report, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point then, we'll open a public hearing to accept input on regarding our fiscal year 2019-2020 budget in conjunction with Resolution 19-08. Is there anyone here who would like to speak to this issue tonight? No takers? Okay, seeing none, I will go ahead and close the public hearing portion. And now that we've at least offered the public to have a chance to weigh in, I'll bring it to the agency to consider Resolution 19-08 to accept the annual budget as presented.
I would move for approval of Resolution 19-02.
08.
I'm looking at my agenda because, sorry, 8.
Second.
Okay. With that properly before us, I'll turn it over to the reporter for our roll call vote.
Ms. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Bueller?
Aye.
Mr. Hume?
Aye.
Mr. Bigelow?
Aye.
Mr. Christensen?
Yes.
Mr. Nordfeld?
Yes.
And Chairman Fitzsimonu.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
With no other items of business on the agenda, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
I now call to order the Housing Authority regular meeting. Note that we've had an opening ceremony and all members are present. Our first item of business is the approval of the May 7th, 2019 minutes. Do we have a discussion or a motion?
Move to approve the minutes of May 7th.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And that was unanimous. Do we have a report from the executive director?
Thank you, ma'am. I have no report tonight.
Okay, thank you. Our next order of business is a public hearing for the 2019-2020 budget. I would now open the public hearing. Do we have anyone who would like to speak? Seeing none, I close the public hearing and ask for a motion from the members of the board.
I move for approval of Resolution 19-02.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Turn it over to Ms. McCamick or Kamak for the vote poll.
Mr. Fitzsimonu.
Aye.
Mr. Bueller?
Aye.
Mr. Hume?
Aye.
Mr. Bigelow?
Aye.
Mr. Christensen?
Yes.
Mr. Nordfeld?
Yes.
And Chairwoman Link.
Yes,
Motion passes unanimously.
thank you. Our next action is to adjourn. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye. I call the regular meeting for the municipal building authority tonight. Court order. Opening ceremony is by Councilman Don Christensen, and roll call, the area council member is here tonight. And item number 4 is approval of minutes, May 7, 2019.
Move for approval?
Okay, we have a motion. We have
Second.
Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
So this motion, it passes. And item number 5 right here is to go back to the city manager. Do you have anything to say tonight?
No, sir. Thanks.
Okay. Number 6, we have a public hearing tonight, and the item number in this public hearing tonight is budgets, the 2018 and 2019, and I will open the budget to the public. Anyone here want to come up and to speak for this item? So none. I will close this public hearings meeting, and I will turn over to the council member for motion or action.
Move for approval of Resolution 19-04.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, have a second. We'll turn over to the city recorder.
Mr. Fitzsimonu.
Aye.
Ms. Lang.
Yes.
Mr. Bueller?
Aye.
Mr. Bigelow?
Aye.
Mr. Christensen?
Yes.
Mr. Nordfeld?
Yes.
And Chairman Hume.
Aye,
Motion passes unanimously.
thank you. A question about the item number B right here, is it the same thing, correct? Or
No.
No.
2019, 2020.
Oh, yeah, that's right, I can't read it again. The budgets right here is for the 2019 and 2020 budget, so I'm gonna open it to a public hearing. So anyone who wants to come up here and to speak for this item, please.
Last chance.
One, two, three. Okay, but I will close and we'll come back, we'll bring it back to the, close the public hearing and bring it back to the council member.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval of Resolution 1905, the 2019-2020.
So we have a motion and we need a second.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and second. We'll turn over to the city recorder, Nicole, comment.
Mr. Herfeld?
Yes.
Mr. Christensen?
Yes.
Mr. Bigelow?
Aye.
Mr. Bueller?
Aye.
Ms. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. P.T. Simonu? And Chairman Hume.
Okay, aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We have one more motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, thank you. All favored in this motion, please say aye.
Aye.
So we adjourn.